Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having yourselves a great start to your Sunday. And I hope everyone has been having a great weekend out there so far. Here to give you the latest information on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Sunday. We'll speak on a few things, extending a little bit out into our Monday for a good chunk of the country. But the things we'll talk about is this complex of storms that could become severe at times today, that's going to continue to move out of Texas into Louisiana, affects basically the immediate Gulf coastline. If you move a little bit further north, I think you will lose the ingredients for severe weather. So it might just a moderate to heavy rain for areas a little bit further inland, deeper into Mississippi and Alabama and surrounding states. But we will give you some details on that. We'll talk about that little bit of spin out there in the southwest that continues to spin around. I think this will be the last active day with that. Seems like we've been dealing with that for an eternity now, but I think we will eventually lose that today. And then we have this huge broad spin that's spinning around this low pressure up here in eastern Canada, and it's basically pulling down cold air on the west side of it and bringing some snow. It's going to be a wintry type day across the Great Lakes region. And then you'll get some of that cold air that will wrap around this low into the northeast, especially later today, really into your Monday for the northeast. And I think tomorrow will be kind of a wintry day across the northeast. And we'll speak on that in this video. The northwest continues to be quiet, but we will, of course, give you some information on that, just like we always do. And then at the very end of the video, we'll just kind of compare the GFS with the European model, talk about what's to come. It hasn't been an extremely active month of weather compared to maybe last March or maybe even the March before. Really was severe. Well, I mean, we've obviously had some severe weather events, right? But, we haven't had that moderate risk yet or that high risk yet that we can get sometimes in March. But, things can change, but we're going to continue to just kind of take some peeks ahead of time, but not get too far ahead. We will give you some information on how cold it'll be over the next few days, as we do have freeze warnings across the south. We'll give you some information on that. And then, like I said, we'll compare the GFS with the Euro and just talk about some storm systems that I'm specifically watching. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I know I've kind of taken a break from the evening videos, just kind of taking advantage of the somewhat not as crazy times. So when things pick back up, of course, the evening videos will come, but just don't really want to overkill it. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things going on in my life outside of YouTube. Nothing bad, just very busy times. It always is in the spring. So I'll definitely catch up with all the comments probably tomorrow. So I do apologize for missing those, but this is going on 3 minutes. If you guys got anything I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So we do got that moisture in the northeast. And then when you see more blue over here in the western side of this kind of huge broad spin, you can see it spinning on radar pretty good. But you got lake effect energy, lake effect snow falling across the UP of Michigan, and even in lower Michigan, especially northern lower Michigan, this is beginning to fall. Some scattered snow flurries are looking like they are falling across maybe the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. Nothing too crazy at all. Most of it's probably not even hitting the ground, but you do have that. And then, I mentioned the rain here. You're starting to get some cold air kind of wrapping in. So, kind of areas in the southern tier of New York, especially the western southern tier of New York around the Finger Lakes region, are beginning to switch and mix with a little bit of snow. And then you got this big complex of storms down here. It's trying to move out of Texas, and it's already moved into Louisiana. This could produce a very small risk of tornadoes today. We'll watch. And kind of just a separated area of rain just kind of skirting across areas of the deep south. And we continue to have this spin right here. So that's what's going on right now. The Storm Prediction Center, they do have that marginal risk. This has not upgraded, and I don't expect it to either. But you still got the marginal risk. If I said moderate risk, I'm sorry. Guys, I have not drank my coffee this morning. And 9 times out of 10, I drink my coffee before my videos. Have not had it this morning. So if you notice I'm a little groggy and just out of it, that's probably why. But there's a marginal risk from south central Texas all the way to the panhandle of Florida pretty much. And this is really driven off just a small risk of tornadoes and then wind and hail. But the 2% risk area, guys, you got to literally be standing in the sand on the coastline of like Louisiana and then the bayou to, to see any risk of a tornado today. I think that most of the ingredients is really going to be in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's why you got this itty bitty little area of a 2% risk. And of course, wind threat, 5% risk of damaging winds, 5% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So not a big severe weather day compared to the last few days at all. So there is a slight risk of flash flooding, and this is really what's going on right now and what's going to happen over the next several hours. A lot of heavy rain is going to move over, especially the southern half of Louisiana. So be prepared for that. We could get some flooding as a lot of rain is going to fall pretty quick over the next several hours. So watches, warnings, advisories in this light blue color, that is freeze watches. Does include Birmingham. It includes Atlanta. It includes Meridian, up to Memphis. The Greenville, Spartanburg area includes Charlotte. So, not quite into Columbia or Augusta, but this could get shifted a county or two south into these areas. In fact, I think they will probably sometime today. This is really not so much for tonight, especially in these areas, but really tomorrow night. But we will see what happens as far as how low those temperatures will get. Winter weather advisories are up for areas of the UP, one county of Wisconsin. One thing I'll watch for today is we'll probably get some winter weather advisories issued for interior areas of the Northeast and areas of maybe even the Ohio Valley. So we'll watch out for that. Winter storm warnings continue up for New Mexico. One last day of wintry conditions in the higher elevations of New Mexico and southern Colorado. After that, I think we kind of calm down for a period. The Southeast today, the immediate Southeast area is pretty quiet. We'll probably get some showers that will try to make their way through later on this morning into early this afternoon. You can see the light shades of green in here, some shower activities possible. Same thing back in, Georgia, Alabama. But then, you really watch this complex of storms. If you notice, and we're going to zoom into this, in Louisiana, the worst of the weather's off the coastline. If this was a little bit further north, then we could have a higher tornado risk and just a higher severe weather risk, like up into New Orleans, Baton Rouge, all these places. But it looks like the most intense area of the storms is either going to be just grinding the coastline of Louisiana or like 90% of this complex of storms will be off into the Gulf of Mexico. But this will continue. We'll kind of bring more of a shield of rain into southern Alabama. Some moderate to heavy rain could move into areas of Georgia later this evening. And I really think this line of storms will begin to weaken, but watch out if you're in the central coastline, the panhandle of Florida later on this evening. This same storms that, are impacting areas of like southeast Texas and western Louisiana right now are going to make their way all the way across the northern Gulf of Mexico. And by the time you get into this afternoon, this evening, it will be impacting the panhandle of Florida. So just be aware of that, be on guard with that. And then this entire complex will just weaken, and then we'll just be dealing with some rain in areas of southeastern Georgia, the low country of South Carolina, and just eastern Carolinas in general. And then we'll just have some widespread showers later on tonight into tomorrow morning for the deep south. And I think tomorrow will probably be a little bit quieter. I really do think it will be. But a little bit closer look at these storms, and if you just want a more zoomed in look, there it is. If you go to like extreme southeast Louisiana, right down here, like the Thibodaux region, these areas even further south, Houma, Louisiana. I only know those towns just because I chased Hurricane Ida there a few years ago. That's the furthest west I've been, by the way, if you're interested in knowing that. I have not traveled really far at all, but this line of storms will really impact like the bayou region down here in swamp regions. And, it just won't be quite as intense up here near like Mobile, but that could change. It could get a little bit more intense than what this is showing, but we'll watch. So that's a closer look at it. The updraft Felicity swath, it really gives you the idea and kind of really solidifies that, the worst of the severe weather is going to be in the Gulf of Mexico. You see the spin going on down here. Most of it is just off the coastline. Okay. But I really think this line of storms will have some rotation with it. Let's just hope that it stays off the coastline here in Louisiana. Rainfall, though, you're not really going to avoid this. A couple inches of rain over the next several hours is likely here in southern Louisiana. Could even get an inch of rain in like Mobile, Gulfport, and I think it lessens up by the time we get into the panhandle of Florida. Now, as we move into the northeast, we already have an area of rain, kind of a piece of energy that's flying through. This will continue to move into Maine throughout the morning hours. Most of Maine will see rain. Now, some of the northern terrain of Maine will start to switch to a little bit of a kind of a rain-snow mix. You might just outright switch to some light to moderate snow. And then after that, we kind of get more of a convective feed of just on and off showers, snow showers, could be rain showers, could be a mixture of both. But until this cold air really moves in, you're going to be struggling with any sort of just solid snow. But this is getting into this afternoon. You notice there's just kind of splotches of green and blue. And then this kind of lets up. We get to this evening, more of a quiet period settles in for your Sunday evening across, Vermont, New Hampshire, Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maine. And then we'll get some energy that kind of flies around this broad low with cold air really moving over these Great Lakes, which are starting to warm back up. And this will fire off some lake effect snow. And that's what we'll start to see. Some bands will start to come off Lake Ontario, Lake Erie. And, there's really no huge consolidated like band or anything like that, at least over the next 24 hours. Now, that could change as we get into tomorrow, or we get some more widespread energy that begins to move in. And then that's when we'll start to see some intense banding. Like, look at Ohio. I mean, it looks like the entire state of Ohio is getting almost snow, just solid banding. A very wintry day tomorrow for Ohio, even getting into West Virginia. I mean, we'll get some snow shower activity, some burst of heavy snow in Pittsburgh, Erie, and certainly the Tug Hill Plateau and even Buffalo, guys. I mean, this will be all, I think you'll get a solid band up here, maybe around the Tug Hill Plateau, points south. And then in southern Ontario, we will be getting some snow. And then we're starting to get into late tomorrow night. And this is still ongoing. This is as far out as we'll go, is 48 hours. It takes us all the way to about midnight or so, give or take an hour, Monday night. And we continue just to get on and off snow showers throughout this entire region that I'm showing. So, except maybe like down here to the Delmarva region, a little bit too far southeast. Snowfall between now and the next 24 hours. I think this is more so for what's going to happen over the next day up here in Maine. But the Tug Hill Plateau area is just south of Buffalo, right here in this region, Erie, and the southern tier of New York. This is driven off what's to come. So, look at the Tug Hill Plateau. We're going to actually get closer to this here in a second. So, take a look at the National Weather Service out of Cleveland. Erie, with this event going for about 2.5 inches of snow. Edinburgh, 4 inches. Cleveland could get a slushy inch or 1.5 inches of snow. And there's a couple other areas showing up on your screen. And then we head on up the road to the Buffalo region, maybe 1 inch of snow. But, you go down to Springville, 7.5 inches of heavy wet snow. So, and then the Tug Hill Plateau, that little area right here, that's anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of snow. So a solid spring snow coming up for you folks up here. And all the, I guess you would say, heavier populated regions, which I know isn't heavily populated, but around the Tug Hill Plateau could get a few to several inches of snow for sure. So the South Central U.S. today, quieter weather. You won't get no huge hailstorms or anything like that. You will get some scattered storm activity, though, that is possible, as you can tell down here near the hill country of Texas. Some heavy showers or even some storm activity, and this will drift around in central Texas also, and could get some storms around the Houston area again. Definitely possible later this evening. And just some widespread light rain after this main push of rain moves through out of Louisiana. We'll kind of maybe drift back into the state of Louisiana. And just some widespread on and off isolated to scattered showers throughout eastern and southern Texas out here. But you notice New Mexico begins to quiet on down. We'll take a closer look at New Mexico here in a second. And then the rest of the period is pretty quiet. Tomorrow looks decently quiet for the most part. So North Central U.S., especially over the next few hours, these lake effect snow bands will really get going, especially in lower Michigan. I mean, these could be really heavy in lower Michigan. It's just the fact that, the sun angle is much higher. And unless you just get a solid period of heavy snow, even up here, it's gonna kind of struggle to accumulate as much. The UP of Michigan a little bit different just because you're locked into some more colder air. But these bands will just kind of whisper around and will certainly stay around longer the closer you are up against Lake Michigan. But as we get into this evening, lake effect snow affecting just offshore the southern shores of Lake Superior. And these will continue. These bandings will continue and continue all the way till tomorrow morning. You're still getting it in the the western counties of lower Michigan, and then the energy will really pop off again down here in the Ohio Valley and eastern sections of the Midwest. And I mean, even Indianapolis, northern Indiana, all of Ohio, some snow will try to make it all the way down to northern Kentucky tomorrow afternoon. Just enough cold air. And, you get a several hour period of some heavy banding. This will probably put some light snowfall accumulations on the ground throughout the Ohio Valley. Not everywhere, but a lot of areas. And then another little band of light to moderate snow will kind of fly through with some energy into Wisconsin Monday night. So we'll see what that does. Snowfall between now and the next 48 hours, several inches of snow likely in the UP and Michigan. Now, the further you get away from Lake Superior, the less snow you'll get. But the immediate right up against the shorelines, not as much, but, just a few miles off the shorelines, obviously more. You guys know how that works up here. But certainly a lot of snow expected up here, and just some light snowfall accumulations in the western counties of lower Michigan, up against the eastern shores of Lake Michigan. So a little bit closer look at the UP of Michigan. And, just several inches of snow is possible. Ironwood going for 5 to 8 inches of snow. Marquette, good 3 to 4 inches. Some of this is already falling right now. So, pick where your area is out on the screen, and that's how much you're expecting. Just some heavy, wet March snow. Nothing too crazy unusual. Gaylord, 1 to 3 inches of snow. Traverse City, 1 to 2. So, a little bit of snow also to the south. I don't have anything pulled up for you guys. I do apologize, but I think it's just widespread 1 to 3 inches of snow expected, like down there near like the Grand Rapids region, stuff like that. So the western U.S., I know I don't have my folks pulled up in like Montana and Northwest, but absolutely nothing's going on today up there. So just want to show you this spin that continues to spin around here in New Mexico. We will continue to get this heavy precipitation across the higher elevations and lower elevations. I'm sure we'll get rain, and we'll continue to get this. This will, drift into Arizona throughout the afternoon, evening hours in the form of some higher elevation rain, lower elevation snow. But, for the most part, guys, this will really taper off tonight, and then we'll finally be done with it. But, additional snowfall totals between now and the next 36 to 48 hours, another several inches of snow could add up in just the higher elevations of New Mexico. So, temperatures, it's a cold day up here. You're finally getting back to sub-freezing temperatures on March 17th, but here we are. There's areas in even lower Michigan that won't get above freezing today. But, the UP and Michigan, northern Wisconsin, you guys will be locked into the 20s. I don't think it'll get above freezing in Minneapolis today. It shouldn't. But, you can see where the gradient of where cooler temperatures are and warmer temperatures are across the Ohio Valley, the Midwest. A chilly day across the Ohio Valley. Northeast, you're going to start to cool down today. But, one of the nicest weather days should be in the Carolinas and Virginia today, where temperatures will soar into the 60s and 70s. Texas will be, there I go again, calling Florida, Texas, and Texas, Florida. Florida today will be probably the warmest state out there, and it'll get widespread 80s. And then the deep south, 60s, some 70s. But, you move out west, well above average temperatures have now moved. I wouldn't say well above. I mean, we are getting deeper into March, but it'll be a nice day. Above average temperatures, some snow melt's probably going to be going on, and certainly some warm temperatures in California. A very nice day. It's looking likely out here. So, just to take a peek at from my folks in the eastern U.S., it's going to be quite cold as we get into our Monday morning. Widespread sub-freezing temperatures as far south as the Mid-South, all the way down here to Tennessee. These are low temperatures tomorrow morning, so we got some cold mornings out ahead of us. It's hard just to make an abrupt shift to winter to spring. That's not typically how it happens. It feels like it happens like that, but we always will continue to get these cold waves. But a chilly morning in the southeast, but, it gets downright cold for your Tuesday morning, where a lot of these deep south towns and cities will get below freezing. Birmingham, certainly below freezing. You'll probably get into the 20s for everybody in Tennessee. Widespread 20s and 30s for the Carolinas and North Georgia. There's a lot of areas that will get below freezing. Charlotte will, Columbia will flirt with below freezing temperatures. Greenville, Spartanburg, probably below freezing. Atlanta, sure enough. And then everybody in the Northeast below freezing pretty much. And then just like that, we begin to warm back up. Another chilly day for Wednesday, some frost probably still around. Northeast still locked in below freezing. But I can tell you guys, and I'll mention this here in a second, it looks like the northern sections up here are going to be locked in some cold air for a period. You notice the temperatures actually drop from Wednesday morning to Thursday morning up here. And you're just going to be quickly reminded that March can still be a winter month up here in the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region, the Northeast. Some very cold temperatures on the way, even some single digits up here in the northern Great Lakes region, and then the just northern terrain of the country. So, we're definitely not done with cold air. And we're going to have some chilly lows even for the Southeast throughout the entire week. So all the way into this weekend, and the cold air might kind of come back this weekend. We'll have to watch. But some cold mornings for the Northeast for sure. Now you look at the European. We're going to take a look kind of what's to come. We're not going to stay on this long, but start off from Monday. We got all this lake effect snow activity, enhanced activity. And then we enter a quiet period. We get into our Tuesday, a little bit of a zonal flow. There's not really anything going on for Tuesday. We get into our Wednesday, and we get this. It's not completely zonal, but it's more so zonal than like dipping, right? You see the 540 line here. Basically, we're getting to some dislodgement of cold air, but it's all being really confined to the northern tier of the country. So we got cold air sliding down sort of like east of the Rockies, right? Into the northern sections of the country, into this area. And you notice in this 540 line, a lot of these areas are seeing snow. And you kind of keep this going, what we'll watch for as pieces of energy that'll slide down this sort of just stationary dip in the jet. And, here comes another piece of energy into Thursday, but really quiet conditions throughout the work week. A little bit of energy showing up in the Gulf of Mexico. And we'll have to watch this blue that you just saw kind of skirt across areas of like Chicago, the Great Lakes region. As we're getting into Thursday into Friday, this could bring some snow for areas of, the northern plains, the north central U.S., the Great Lakes region as we get into Friday. And then as I think we get into the weekend, there's a couple things to watch. One's a Gulf low down here. That kind of brings some really soggy conditions to Florida. And then the pattern gets active again. We start to get a lot of activity out west. Look at all this green and blue showing up as we get into next weekend. We start to get energy. We still got a lot of cold air locked in Canada. And we just start to get a lot going on at this point. This is about a week out from today. We got this low pressure off the coast of the Carolinas. We got this huge storm system in the middle of the country bringing a major winter storm across the northern plains. With a track of this low pressure, we probably would have some sort of severe weather ongoing for Saturday or Sunday. Okay, but we don't know if this is exactly the way this is going to play out. But the models are hinting at a pretty substantial low pressure storm system right into here sometime next weekend. And at the same time, you have this kind of cut off low that's drifting into the Carolinas and then the Northeast. And and then we get all the way to 10 days out. We get some weird stuff that happens as we get into next weekend. But I really think, as we kind of work our way into like the most of the work week, I think it's going to be a relatively quiet week of weather. I think it's just, and this is the GFS, I think it's just as we get into this coming weekend is when things start to get active again. Now, we could have a low right over here that the European's not really showing that could enhance some snowfall for the Northeast. But here it is getting in a Thursday. Energy kind of just riding this boundary up into here that could bring some waves of snow where there is colder air across the Dakotas, Minnesota, the Great Lakes region. And then there's that low that the Euro was showing also. It looks a little bit more robust off the GFS, bringing soggy conditions across the Southeast for our Friday. And what is that going to do? It turns into a pretty strong low. At the same time, you got this system right into here bringing some heavy snow across the northern sections of the country. You got this low, you got some cold air. And on the GFS, it takes this low and tries to mix it with some colder air. But then that kind of heads on off. And then we have a lot of energy out west that gets going. This is about a week from today. A lot of higher elevation snow, lower elevation rain, and then a big system that gets cranking across the middle of the country. It could be a big late season winter storm for areas. I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen, but Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, and man, the GFS shows a pretty nasty winter storm. And then I think it starts to get active as we just round off the rest of our March. So we'll take a deeper look into this here in the next day or so. But yeah, that's all I got, guys. Sorry for the lack of energy. Like I said, no really pick me up this morning to really get me going. But we made it through. Y'all have a great Sunday, and most likely we'll be with you guys for Monday morning. God bless all y'all. Thank y'all for the support in these somewhat slower times. And yeah, y'all have a great Sunday.